Alright, let's take a look at Way of the Hunter, which is coming out actually very soon. I even have early access, so I will be trying out and seeing if I can provide you guys with some early access content already starting the 12th. Today we're going to be taking a look at the last two dev diaries where we're talking about two different things. Well, actually three, but the first one is the one that I think most people are pretty excited about, and it's going to be the way the animals are scored and the antlers and just entire scoring system in general, because at the beginning it seemed to me, from what I heard from people, that it wasn't that complex, but after taking a pretty deep dive into the dev diary and actually listening to what they're talking about, it does seem like a lot of different factors has some thing to say in the development of the trophies of the animals, which is actually super cool. You have something else than we're not used to having this in Call of the Wild, but apparently genetics of the animal and fitness of the animal is actually going to be playing a factor as well. And if this actually does mean that taking out all of the bad ones first, leaving the good ones, and then have them breed monsters afterwards, if that is a way we can actually basically get the game to only give us the really good animals, and then of course the one here and there that just does not really fit in anywhere, I think this could be a very interesting way to start looking at things, and it's something that I know a lot of people have really wanted in the other hunting games as well. You can see it's scored by the length of the main beam, length of typical points, crown length, circumference, and greatest spread, and this is the red deer that we're currently looking at. They also showed off that the roe deer actually has pearls, the bighorn is going to have annually rings. There is going to be a lot more into it than I initially thought that they were going to be bringing to the table with this, and of course this is a good thing, especially when they're coming out with the price of the game being in the high end compared to at least the competitors, so they need to be offering something different. And this, with being able to have a big influence in how your animals is going to look in the future by taking down the small ones, taking out the weak ones, I do believe that this is actually a really nice step into something that is going to be very fun to try to manage. We also got to have a look at the hunting lodges, and the hunting lodges does seem to be placed on each reserve. I don't know if you can't use animals from the different reserves in other lodges then, because that's kind of a little bit of I would have liked to see more freedom. I would have liked to be able to see customizable lodges to the extent where you could basically place your stuff wherever you want if you just want a full lodge of big animal plaques and such. But that does not seem to be the case. They do seem to be set. They do have a lot of nice environments, which is obviously just going to work pretty much like multi-mount, and you get to decide if you want to taxidermize or you want to sell your animals when you harvest them. Another cool thing in the lodge as well does seem to be the ability to access a PC where you can check licenses, and it seems to be some kind of contracts / missions where people actually send you an email and ask you to go out and hunt something specific. You also access the store on the PC and storage. You can access the storage out in the wild as well as sleep in both the lodge and some of the cabins that you will find out and about on the reserves as well. I actually haven't seen if there is tents in the game, but maybe we don't need tents if the cabins is spread out well enough. I'm personally not 100% sure how the licenses are going to work. We just briefly saw them in the video, and it didn't really... I didn't really see anything specific. This is the way you access your vehicle. You can recall it if you've left it somewhere and you went back to your main lot, drive around. But a thing that is actually really cool with the vehicle is that you have your entire storage with you. This is a nice touch, and this does indeed make it a reason why you want to be bringing your car with you for most of the hunts and place it somewhere where you can easily get back to it and then maybe drive it forward when you've scouted the entire area of what's around. However, you cannot access the store, so make sure that you're bringing all the equipment that you do want, that you have stocked up on your ammo and such while you take a big long trip out in the wilderness to see what you can find. There is a few things that I would like to talk about in this dev diary thing. I do like the idea that they're going with the combination between the CIC and the Boone and Crockett scoring systems and basically make up their own a little more. We've been pretty used to having different things going on in the different hunting games, so I guess we'll get used to that pretty quickly. However, there is one thing, and I know this is probably a silly thing to say, but I honestly, when we were taking a quick look at the store, to me, what really stood out there was simply the prices. If you take a look at this red deer that was harvested in the video, then it's giving quite a bit of money. It's almost like you only need to harvest 2 of these to be able to afford a new gun. Is this going to be something where we can basically grind whatever we need of money for the foreseeable future in maybe an hour and take away the factor that we need to be killing these animals for experience or for money or something like that? I'm not sure if having the items be that cheap is gonna be a smart thing, or it's actually just gonna play out that, yeah, it just, people are gonna figure out what their favorites are gonna be anyway. To me, it just seems to be a little cheap, especially when we've been used to actually grind for our things, both in the Hunter Classic and the Hunter Call of the Wild, before we got access to buy some of the big stuff, and even some of the very used stuff like tents and such has actually had a pretty steep price range on them. I think if you're really, really lucky, you need to kill like 10 or 12 black bears, that is at least big gold scoring ones in Call of the Wild, to be able to afford a tent. I know a tent in real life isn't that expensive, but just to give you something to grind towards, I do like having that personally in these kind of games. Another thing that really stood out to me was this picture. The weight of the whitetail is 163 kgs. I don't know if this is a mistake, that it was meant to be pounds instead, but 163 kgs does definitely seem to be in the high end, especially when the other hunting games that I've played, they go up to 100 kgs. But the antlers on this guy does look really good. And having the tips of the antlers from example the red deer and the roe deer be able to have a white coloration or even be cracked a little, that is a very nice touch as well. I'm getting more and more excited for this game, even though in the beginning when they released it and showed us the first footage and such, I wasn't really sold on the game, especially after we got to know the price, which is gonna be like 40 euros for the base game, or 50 if you want to have the big one with the season passes and such, which I think includes the 2 first maps, so it's not too bad. But again, it is still a heavy price tag to put on something where your competitors are basically giving their games away for free. So I really hope that this game is offering something very new and some different experience to what we know so far. As I said earlier in the video as well, I do have early access, and I'm going to be testing out the game for the next week before I get to show you any kind of footage. So if there's anything in particular you guys would like me to try to test out, or any questions you want to have answered, leave them in my comments and I will try to see if I can get around to do as many of them as possible. Thank you so very much for watching.